Welcome to Life You Got This. Life You Got This, Misty Covington, guests, and any social media platforms used, including any references, links, or other knowledge resources, are for informational purposes only. Please seek professional assistance should you require it. If you believe you are in an emergency, call 911 immediately. Happy Thursday, everybody. This is Misty Covington with Life You Got This, and I have our dear friend, Kendra Clark, who's with us for a third episode, and we're continuing these episodes. Before we get started today, I just wanted to remind everybody that sometimes, I'm not sure if it will be today because we do this very freely and organic, although there are outlines. There might be things that you hear that are triggering or hard or that bring some things up. And so I just want to prepare everyone for that. And if you find yourself in a space where that's more of a struggle than you're wanting to manage on your own, please make sure you get your support person or go seek some professional help to help you work through that. And if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to email them to us at lifeyougotthis.com. And we'll be happy to address anything that we're able to regarding the show and maybe some questions or concerns. So hi, Miss Kendra.
Hello, Miss Misty. So nice to see you again.
I know it's been a hot minute. We've had to postpone because life happens.
Life. We do have this.
And yes. It's all good, even when it's hard. And yes. But it's all good. So today, most of our focus is going to be about careers and evolutions of career choices, education careers, and there is an evolution. We were talking about like, man, if we were going to talk about a theme, it might have been like no regrets, or you said something, there's no strength where there's no struggle. I thought that was a nice phrase. I'm going to probably steal that for myself. I like it. But there's probably some resilience and lessons learned. And as I've noticed when we talk, and just you as a human, which I think is a nice characteristic, that you're always acutely aware of the powers that be, a spiritual, like God. And so you're like going, yeah, I am not ever walking alone. And sometimes it feels that way because maybe we don't get the answers we want, or the direction is different than we expected. But I think part of the beauty of who you are as a person is that you're, again, acutely aware. And so we might touch upon some of that. And I know it comes in your whole life, but so I will be surprised if it doesn't show up. But just letting people know that's kind of it. We're talking about careers and paths and journeys of that, because that is part of everybody's life. But there's other things, and no regrets. So I'm going to just turn the time over to you and ask questions as needed, as you are so graciously sharing your journey with others. You.
Well, Misty, thank you so much. And when you just beautifully alluded to the fact there is no strength or there is no struggle, and that would be kind of an ongoing theme when we talk about the journey of my professional life too, because we did speak last time about my motherhood and kind of that part of that season of my life. And as my children were growing up, I mean, I guess I should say with my youngest. So I at the time I had 4 kids in about an 8-10-year time frame. I had 3 kids in about 4 to 5 years, and then I lost 2 babies, and then I had a last little caboose, and so I had like 5 years from the 3rd and the 4th. So when the 4th one was born, I was kind of getting a little bit like, all right, I think I've always kind of worked part-time, a little bit like in the evening when my husband was home, or if he was home during the day, I would go work, but I really wasn't a daycare advocate for at least my children. I just really wanted to keep them in the home as much as possible, but I also needed to make some extra money. So I was always very creative on how I could do that, and yet try to maintain the children at the home. Yeah. But then when, of course, Miss Addie, our youngest, when she was born and she was 2 years old, I kind of thought, okay, you know what? The kids are in school. Maybe I can put my feelers out a little bit, because just a little reminder, at that time, before I had children, I had my training was in clinical psychology. And so I did the work in that space for quite some time. And some of the creative little jobs that I would, or little gigs I would do with that background, were a lot of speaking. I would speak for big pharma. So I'd speak a lot, like with Pfizer and things like that. I did a lot of lactation consulting. So I did the psychosocial piece from that training, but yet I really was attracted to more of medicine. And so I tried to just always find opportunities that I could really kind of bring more of that medical into my speaking or my job. Or I wrote a mental health handbook one time for Aetna. Well, not one time, but it took me quite a long time to write the handbook. But I had little kids at home, so I would write the handbook at home, So things like that kept me busy, kept me engaged, made a little extra money, but I was still able to be home with the kids. And so the whole funny thing is, after I really thought, okay, I've kind of used this clinical psychology training to where I don't really want to go further with it. I think I want to move into that medical space. How does that look for me? And knowing that I had 4 little children at the time, I thought, I've always wanted to go to medical school. I always thought I'd be very attracted to, I was very attracted to pediatrics, or pediatric anesthesia and things like that I was focused on. And so when I was doing some of the research on, I remember back then we didn't really have a lot of internet either, but it was books, right? And so I would go to the library and I would look up, okay, what is the 10-year outlook for different jobs? Because I wanted to make sure that whatever I chose, it had demand. And so I'd go to the library, I'd check out the book of the job outlook, and really try to be systematic about it. And medicine was a really solid choice. And so understanding that, and my husband at the time, he traveled a lot. So I understood that I didn't have the luxury of putting my kids in daycare full time and just going off to school for the rest of, 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
And so I found out about physician assistant from actually my husband at the time. He said, well, why do you think about being a PA? And I really didn't know what it was. And I said, well, tell me more. Is it an assistant? Is it like a medical assistant? And again, mind you, this was in 2002. So this is a long time ago. Yeah. And he says, no, remember so-and-so treated us for whatever. And I said, oh, okay, I'll look into it. So then as I looked into it, I realized that, of course, I lived in Ogden at the time, and the kids were in a very busy season, like middle school and elementary and, some at home. And so it's just a busy, busy time. And my church responsibilities, and I was involved with athletics and just a lot of things personally. And so I looked into the physician assistant program, and I, of course, had one option, which was the University of Utah, living in Ogden, which was about an hour and a half away on a good day, right? On a good day.
Right.
And so, and of course, come to find out, the University of Utah was 4th in the nation, and pretty much impossible to get in for at least 3 to 5 years, because there's hundreds, if not thousands, of applicants. And at that time, they only chose 36, because it wasn't like a revolving class where they had 3 or 4 going at the same time. They had 36 people they chose, and they followed those 36 people all the way throughout that tenure. And so I thought to myself, wow. And I heard, it's harder to get in, PA school than medical school and blah, blah, blah. I thought, well,
might be true.
I'm gonna look into it, and I'm just gonna kind of get my feelers out. And so what I did from there is I thought, what, I'd been out of college at that time for 15 years or so. And I looked at all the requirements, and I thought, wow, I've got to pretty much go back from square one and learn everything all over again. So
what I like about what you're saying, and this is just for the listener, because you could have just been overwhelmed, and you could have had a part of your brain that says, this isn't my season. And for some people, that's true. This isn't my season. But you started because I'm doing what I enjoy doing. This is more interesting to me. And it's okay to pivot. I don't have to be tied to what I started my education in. And then you get some research. And then you're also finding out, like, oh, that is, if I do that, there could be a huge delay, but you kept going. You know what I mean?
I kept going, and
You're defining like, this is really what I'm driven to do, and it's okay. I don't know. I just think it is really great because some people are going to go, I'm paralyzed. It's scary. It's too overwhelming. It's too big. Can I do both? And you can, if that's a good fit for you, because some people, it isn't their season. But I like that you are like mentally processing this as you're journeying, and then you're pivoting as you need to. It's not like
right.
you have to do this straight line. I think
Yeah, and as I get into the story more, you'll hear about um, how absolutely crazy it really was, because at that time when I was just reading the requirements, I thought, okay, I got to take all these classes. All right, I could take them at Weber State, which was in Ogden, and that wasn't too far, and I could do it at night, whatever. And then so I thought, okay, I'm just going to chew off what I can, and I did. And I wasn't really thinking about PA school. I just had to think about all of the prerequisites that I had to get through first. And so I thought, we can do this. We can do this.
Overwhelming. Even that
It
scare people away.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it does. And that's the thing. Was I scared? Was I overwhelmed? Yes. But I did have the ability to compartmentalize and say, look, I'm not going to be doing all of PA school right now. I'm going to do anatomy and physiology. I'm going to do biochemistry, things that I knew were right in front of me. And then I was asked to teach anatomy physiology at Weber State. So I thought, okay, I think that would be a great opportunity. So the more you teach it, the more you learn it, the better you understand it. So I found my
when you want to get into school.
Yeah, right.
And so I get ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. No, it's okay. So I found myself as a, kind of a student teacher of anatomy physiology for other students, and just kind of taking one bite at a time. And again, I had still, Addie was really young and she was 2. And I thought to myself, my goal is when she's 5, when she's in kindergarten, that'd be great for me to really become serious about PA school, because I knew that they own you for 3 years, and I didn't really want to go when she was still at home with me. She was my last baby. I had lost 2 before her. I wasn't about to, give her up. So at any rate, I knew that time was just about to go. Okay, let's just kind of get my feet wet. And I loved medicine. I always have loved medicine. And so I was just kind of just biting off these classes one after the other. And then I knew, well, I better apply to PA school now, because I don't want to get in for 3 years. I really want to get in year 4 because that's when she's going to be in school. Yeah. And so she was young at the time.
That was good.
What's that?
Very strategic of you. That was
very strategic. Yes. So I had this plan. And everyone's like, okay, yeah, I think, most people, 95% get in on year 4. So, do what you got to do. I'm like, fair enough. So, and I wasn't one that could apply to multiple schools like a lot of PAs do now. I could apply to one school and that's it. And of course, they're very competitive. So I got my application. I put my packet together. I did everything I needed to do. I finally took all the prerequisites. And my biochem class, just in case anybody's in medicine, they'll totally understand this. I didn't have any chemistry in my prior undergraduate. And so this prerequisite, I just had biochem online. So essentially, I didn't really have ever a chemistry class live. So I just share that because that'll kind of tie into what I'm going to say here in a moment. So I put my application packet together, and there was about 600 to 700 applicants. And I thought, well, that's great. I'm done. I'm not going to hear from them, and I'll do it again next year. And so then I get a letter from the University of Utah, and they're like, hey, we like your application. We've chosen you as the top 90 applicants. We actually chose you for the top 30 applicants out of the 600 or 700. So we'd like to have you come for an interview, an all-day interview. And we'd also like to have you come for an all-day IQ testing, like just basic random testing that you really can't prepare for. Because they didn't do the GRE, they did this more of this IQ hierarchy type testing. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, wow, okay, this is getting a little too close to home, but I'll go because they asked me. And so I go with this group of 30 people for 2 days. The first day is just Scantron after Scantron after Scantron, just IQ, just spitting out stuff. And and then the next day were like 8 hours of interviews. So we had panel, we had group, we had individual, we had mock, and we had you name it.
Sounds intense.
very intense, but I was just really kind of like happy-go-lucky. I just wasn't, I'm like, this is not the year for me to get in. So this is kind of practice. So let's have fun with it type thing.
Yeah.
And so there are some things I did.
You're more relaxed. It's nice.
That more relaxed.
See, we're just going to look and see. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And I
nice.
remember there was a question, it was a little bit rogue, I think, now that I look back on it, there was a question like, why is it that we should choose you to be a student at the University of Utah PA school, you know? And I answered it something like, I answered, you know, the question, and I said, as blessed or as fortunate or as honored as I would be to be a student here. This is what I said. I said, I personally feel like you'd be equally honored to have me as a student. And I didn't mean that as an arrogant. It didn't come out arrogant, and I didn't mean it arrogant. What I meant by that is, I'm here today. I'm a mother of 4. I've worked my tail off. I can tell you that if you choose me, it will benefit your program as well. And I went into that intentionally, because for job applications, I'd always like coach people in job applications, and I'd always say, keep in mind, you're interviewing them too.
Yes.
Like it's not, it's, you know, you're interviewing them. So I kind of brought that, and I remember the judges and the people that were, you know, judging me, they all kind of like, oh, I thought either I blew it or I did okay, but it doesn't matter because I'll be here in 6 years, so whatever, right? And so they said, okay, we've chosen, or we've interviewed 30. We need to actually interview up to 90, because we've chosen a total of 90 to kind of narrow down to 36. And they said, after the testing, the last 2 days, we're going to choose the top 8 people only, and then the rest, we're going to interview the next 60, and then we'll kind of find the next, you know, we'll kind of find our 36 total. But we're going to let our 8 people know in the next week. And so my family, we had a cruise scheduled, actually saved our pennies up, and we had a cruise scheduled like the next day. And so my mind was like, oh, I'm done with that. Let's go get packed. Let's go have some fun. So we went on a cruise, and I remember we didn't like have the funds to like sign up for the internet, because that was like expensive. And so we signed up for like 10 minutes, or I don't know, a couple minutes of internet. And I remember gathering the kids around, you know, like day 5, and, you know, the whole family was around to get online. And, you know, because I'm not going to be one of the 8. I'm just going to check, but I know I'm not one of the 8, you know. So I get on, and it says, congratulations, you're one of the 8 people that were chosen and accepted. And I just about lost it. Here I was on this with my kids.
That's not my plan.
I was like, no, it's not my plan. Like, I can't go now. Like, how am I gonna do this with, you know, my little one and my kids? We're not ready. Huh? But then I thought, I can't defer that. So I was really up a creek. And so we came back, and then lots of family meetings about, look, this is what we want. This is what I want to do. That doesn't mean that we have to do this. Let's talk about this. This is what it's going to look like as a family. You're going to be my patients. I'm going to be practicing on you. I'm going to be in school with you, you know, but all these points of reality. And we decided as a family, you know, let's do it. And the kids are like, the older kids are like, Mom, we've got this. You know, I got homework with the kids. I'll help with this. I'll help with that. We've got Addie. Like, the older kids are very responsible. I never really, thankfully, had to help them with homework. I just expected them to do it. And if they needed help, I'd be there. But generally, that was part of the expectation. So I didn't have to teach them these big life skills. They were already like, Mom, let's do this. And I said, okay, when I graduate, I'm getting 6 graduation caps. Like, this is not just my accomplishment. This is all of our accomplishments.
I like that they were supporting you, and that just shows like how confident they are as being humans, like little they're human, but like, and that it shows like, when the family unit is working together, like it's unstoppable. Like, you know,
it's unstoppable. But and also keep in mind, we were in the honeymoon phase, so it's nice on paper, mom, yeah, rah, rah. Right. But then when you get down to, oh, Mom, like, Halloween's here.
Why
Oh,
are
and
you
I'm thinking, oh,
here?
it's Halloween. Like,
Yeah,
what's Halloween? Like,
yeah.
so,
But for now, it's nice.
for now it's nice. For now it's nice. And so in the fall, I remember I was in a very serious car accident actually the day before my classes started. We won't go into that, but I was in a pretty serious car accident. I was in the hospital and I had to go almost AMA because I had to get to class my very first day of
Oh,
school. So it was really stressful from the get-go. And when I got into I was in the program and there's only 36 of us and 35 of them were they're single. Maybe the wife had one child, or but most of them were in their 20s, and this is their life. And I thought
there you go.
I thought if I'm gonna do this, I have to take the city bus. I have to leave Ogden. I get to Salt Lake, the University of Utah, about an hour and a half to 2 hours one way. That's if it wasn't snowing. Sometimes it was 4 hours one way because the snow would slow the bus down.
I can
And
do
I
it.
kid you not, I couldn't afford the time because I thought I have to get from point A to point B. I have to take the bus so I can study because I can't, the driving is not study time.
Right.
So decided to do a practice run in the summer on how to get there on all the buses.
Yeah.
And I
It's
did.
great advice for people who are not, are doing something new. Do a
Yeah.
practice run. I love that.
Yeah. And so got the bus and I did the bus pretty much every single day my didactic year, which is the year at the campus, and got up at 3:30 in the morning, maybe 4 if I was lucky, and then got on the bus around, first one was like 5:30, maybe 6. Got to the campus at 7:30, right before class started at 8. And it was in classes nonstop until 5:30, jumped back on the bus from 6 to 7:30, almost 8. I got home. And as you know, with children, they're fed, they're already in the bath,
Mhm.
and I thought, how am I going to do this? These children, like their lives. And so I
Yeah.
got to say,
Well,
it
even
was,
your own life, because you're like, I'm up at 3.
yeah,
So
I'm up
I
at
maybe
3,
got, I mean, maybe you got 5 hours of sleep. Maybe.
maybe,
Yeah.
maybe. That, so there was such a massive undertaking for my life and my psyche and my stability. And what did I choose? I mean, why did they accept a mother of 4? Like, how could they? Well, I'm here. So I had to make this decision. Kendra, you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable because the next 4 years are going to be painful for you. And
Ah,
that's when I just said, Lord, this is so much bigger than I am. I can't be gone 12, 13 hours a day and have these active kids without you. Like, I can't. Like, Lord, if they are sick and if they need their mom, I will quit this program. They are more important than anything. I
yeah.
need you to keep these kids healthy
Yeah.
because I can't do it all. And
Yeah.
so I just put it on the table and I just said, let's do this. But I need you to keep me healthy. I need you to keep my
Yeah.
children healthy because if anything happens to them, this whole thing's, there's a
Yeah.
reason I got in. So
Yeah.
let's kind of
I mean,
fast
some of
forward
the
through
things
that.
you're saying, I go, oh, I wouldn't have recommended that, right? Because, like, we know sleep is imperative for mental and physical
Oh,
health, all the
oh,
things. But
mm-hmm.
that being said, sometimes we're like, when this is going to be a season and it's going to be a hard season. It might be the worst winter ever season, right? Or the hottest, whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I do think that even though on the surface, people are like going, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah,
Or that's good. That's going to be too hard, or
yeah,
you're going to fall apart. I mean, there's
yeah.
all these narratives you
Oh,
probably
yeah,
went in and out of your head. And
yeah.
you have a spiritual foundation. So that's very strengthening for you, which I think is great. Not everyone has that, but it's brilliant. But also it's like, but also I like that you're not negotiating with God, but you're like, when here's what needs to happen if this is the course that I'm supposed to do,
Yeah.
which I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And also it's also nice because you're like going, it's going to be a season. Like, you're already saying this is 4 years. It's going to be really hard. So I think for the listener, most things are in seasons anyway. I got in a car accident, it's in a season, or I got ill
Yeah.
and there might be a season. Sometimes our seasons are really long with the illnesses, and sometimes our seasons have an end, and that means maybe they're terminal. But at the same time, I'm hoping the listeners are like getting like, no one's recommending that people do what you're doing, But what I would recommend is they think it through like you did, and also if they're able to reframe it or get support. So you had your family, and kids are kind of up and down. Sometimes they're supportive, sometimes they're not. Spouses, but you also had a spiritual support that was going to help you do this. So when people are thinking, I got to do something hard, if you're able to reframe it like it's for a season, and if I add it on to the and, what do I need to have in place? Spiritual, temporal, whatever, in order to get the support, the things that boon me forward. So at any rate, I'm just listening to you going, yeah, I would not have recommended that as a professional. I go, oh no, you're going to have burnout. You might be sick. I mean, because honestly, why would I have any of my clients do that? But at the same time, sometimes people do hard things, and that's okay. Anyway, so.
Just a couple points. Like I said, I mean, I was for the most part a stay-at-home mom. So like, Halloween, we decorate, we do cookies, we do this. And here I was literally, I remember I walked into Walmart and it was like October 28th. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's Halloween. I don't even know that. And let me just say this, credit to my tribe, because I had to hire a couple wives because I had a wife to help. The one thing I just made, I made a commitment to my family and myself that my children's lives would not be affected. They will continue in sports. They will continue in academics. They will continue in scouting. They'll continue in church. Like these things that are important to them will stay important. So I literally had like the multi-wives club going on. I had one for driving. I had one for dinner. I had one for.
That's just it. That's the support, right?
Yeah. Like, and my husband at the time was great. Like we all just pitched in. And so, but I will say it was, I remember like, I remember so many different times. I remember seeing this gal in my ward actually, and she was married to a dentist, and she had like what I thought was like a really nice life. Like, she never had to work. She had like maybe 2 kids, and her kids were grown, and then and just like, oh. And I remember seeing her, and I thought, my life cannot be more opposite. And that's when I made a decision, girl, like stop doing that, because it's time right now. You are in the trenches, and guess what? Get comfortable, because not only this year, but next year, and then you're going into neurosurgery
next year,
and you're looking at a very hard profession. And so I'd like, done, bring it on. Okay. But again, to your point, Misty, when we were saying this, is I knew I was accepted in this very competitive program for a reason. On paper, I shouldn't have been, but I was. And so I thought, there is a reason for this. So forge ahead, and through God, I can do anything. And so I just kept that cloak of trust in the Lord.
It's like a trust thing. Trust
in the Lord.
Trust in the process.
Yep. And hours and hours on a city bus. I still hear the buses, like if you hear one on the road and the way they drive and the exhaust, and I still get this like, oh, those are my people. So like, all the people on the bus, we knew each other, and it's just that's a whole nother podcast. The bus life is a whole nother podcast. Okay, so we'll get through that. So another thing about the University of Utah, the way that they can really micromanage everything. So my peers were very, very bright, and they really wanted the high scores, and then they would look at all the scores. So they were able to really micromanage everything, which added a lot of pressure as well.
It's an interesting competitive, edgy thing to it.
Yeah. And so they're really having these stressed out like meltdowns, but yet I'm just like trying to, just manage it all. So the first year, very, very hard. I did it. I am so thankful. I did well. I did it. We did it. And the second year, again, such a tender mercy, because I was able to actually go do the residency piece, the clinical piece at McKay Hospital, which was a resident program. I was so fortunate because I knew the resident director. And I was able to be in with the medical residents, which is kind of unheard of. So I was in that group of taking call, of being a medical, like a, MD medical resident. And it was a blessing in the sense that I got the best training ever. I feel like it was a curse because
it's crazy.
I'm like, great, be careful what you ask for.
Right.
So that was a whole nother year of baptism by fire. really.
Mm.
But at the end, I'm fast forwarding through the whole time.
Yeah,
Graduated.
saying it right.
Yep, graduated, and my kids' graduation hats, all of us. And glory to be to my Lord for sustaining this extremely stressful part of my life, and to my children and my husband at the time as well. It was just a huge accomplishment. And so I realized long ago that I wanted to go into neurosurgery because of my brother. I knew that, the neuro the neural function and the neural just anatomy, and obviously with neural trauma and brain tumors.
And real quick, just in case a listener didn't listen to a previous podcast, will you quickly say what happened to your brother and why that was like his
Huge.
accident, just real quickly?
Of course. My brother was 5. This is in the early 60s. My brother was 5 years old, and I have 2 brothers. There was a brother that was 5 that I'm talking about, and there was another brother that was just born. The other brother that was just born was just screaming his little head off, newborn baby. My mom had said to the 5-year-old guy, "Just go play, go play. I'm nervous, I'm stressed. Go play."
What
And so
do.
my brother,
Yeah.
sorry.
But moms do,
Yeah, what moms do. Yeah, go play. So my brother Guy, he took his kite and he ran into the street, looking back at the kite like this. And there was a truck coming, and the truck hit my brother. And my brother was, his injuries were not compatible with life. Like they're like he's completely annihilated essentially. And so he was in life support in a coma for months, life support, really devastating. But with children, we keep them on for a long, long, long time because they're resilient. But this is really the demise is imminent. And so I was conceived simply because, they were getting ready for him to pass away when they finally decided to take him off to pass. They had they had a grave arrangement, they had everything planned, and they took him off life support after months, and he breathe on his own. So he was a 5-year-old his whole life. And
he had some head injuries along with other.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's why
Significant.
Yeah. Like, of course that makes sense. Where you're like,
cognitive, physical.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
but I tell you what,
that was your passion. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. He was stuck at he was a perfect, like literally such a charm of a person. So my whole life, my whole heart, my whole love is patients and people with disabilities. It's always been that way, and it will always be that way. And we're going to go through that here, hopefully, on this episode a little bit more. So, a huge blessing in my life for every reason. My life, I am who I am because of my brother and all of his wonderful friends with disabilities. That's what I have to say.
That's why you're originally involved with or interested. Like, I am interested in this brain stuff.
Yeah. I'm interested in neurotrauma. I'm interested in if there's any brain dysfunction, I want to be a part of helping heal that, whatever that looked like. It wasn't neurology. It was neurosurgery. Like I wanted to be in the trenches with the hardest of the hardest. And so, and I knew it would be a very demanding profession, and I'll kind of go through this quickly. And it was, there were very few females in the profession, but I went in, I had an amazing mentor, Dr. Blake Welling, who was my neighbor in Ogden, and he took me under his wing, and he's like, this is going to be like the hardest year of your life. And I thought to myself, no, I've already had enough years. No, I got this. No, trust me, I'll get this. Like, I'll get it by Monday, thinking I'm done. I've already graduated,
Sure.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. It was great, amazing, but I had a great mentor. And so that was the beginning of my neurosurgery, really career as a PA. And it was challenging. It was remarkable. It was heartbreaking. It was grueling. It was everything one can imagine. And I won't go through all of my jobs, but I was with the chief neurosurgeon at Phoenix Children's here in Phoenix. And so he was the head neurosurgeon. It was just the 2 of us. And we had all the neural trauma. We had all the child abuse. We had all the worst of the worst. And so, it does change you. And as a mother of 4, I learned early on to compartmentalize. I always say I'm kind of a dude in a girl's body, because when you've got this very high stressful 0 to 60 baby or child that wasn't restrained, and they're literally, bleeding out, and we have to saved their lives is you don't have a mother's heart at that time. You
Yeah.
have a saving heart, right? And so you get to business and you do it very quickly. And then when you're finished is when you pray as a mother prays for children, right? And so I had that whole process going on. I've seen some incredible things. I've seen some devastating things, but nonetheless, I was able to separate my emotion from what needed to be done, and that was my career, really.
Yeah.
And so it was really taught me to be very stoic. Very stoic, meaning just in control of my emotions, being very cerebral when I needed to be, yet compassionate when I needed to be. So that was my tenure in neurosurgery and orthopedic surgery. I did a lot of brain and spine, and so generally that was the crux of my career as a PA, and I absolutely loved it. I also dabbled, not that I needed more to do, but I was asked to do a major pivot and open up, and this is in Ogden as well. I think it's called Mindful Women at the time, but it was an aesthetic clinic. And at the time, Botox was just coming out, and all of these lasers and this trend that people are just going, wow, what is this? I can do this. So I was asked to open up this clinic, and I had to learn, all about the world of aesthetics and injectables. Back then, we only had like 2 types of fillers and, Botox. I mean, it was just very, minimal. But that allowed me to learn a whole different scope and become involved with something completely different, which I enjoyed. I really did. But my heart and soul was really in neurosurgery. But I was able to actually do both, not at the same time, but different. For whatever reason, I would, practice neurosurgery. And let's just say, for whatever reason, I transitioned and I did this for a year or two. So I was able to kind of like do both, which was great. I eventually had my own little, practice per se, but for many, many years, 15, 20 years. But those things have phased out, but I really have enjoyed my role as an aesthetic PA and as an injector and all of that. That was a lot of fun for me. I enjoyed it. I love the people. But so again, it was kind of like 2 opposite worlds that I enjoyed both of them. I did a lot of medical.
Your brain, because it was like a break.
Yeah.
Because the dynamics and the relationships with those different patient sets is different.
Totally different. Yeah. I did more medical Botox too, like Bell's palsy. So like the whole half the face was paralyzed. And so I enjoyed like trying to create symmetry with Botox and really, paralyze one side just enough to just, things like that to give these people their life back, like a lot of scars. And so I found great joy in acne patients and just trying to give them the complexion with some of these treatments. So I enjoyed that. And of course, my kids at this time were growing and thriving, and I was having life changes, which we mentioned in prior podcasts. And I was just letting you know that when just one more little thing I'll just mention before I wrap this piece up is I thought to myself, I don't know why I was thinking, let's go and let's see if I can be on it's called the Arizona PA Regulatory Board. So basically it's the medical board for all of the physician assistants in the state of Arizona, basically overseeing the regulatory practices. Say PAs don't do what they should do, or make it oopsie here, or whatever the case is. I thought, well, that would be kind of interesting. So, the governor has to nominate. Might as well. So that was 2019, 2018, no, actually, I'm sorry. I'm in my 8th year. So a while ago, do my math right now. But again, Governor Ducey, that tells you how long it was in Arizona. I was nominated by him. And so I've been on the Regulatory Board of Physician Assistants, which has been an incredible opportunity because I've learned more of the legislative side. And like I said, it's a 4-year term, but I'm on my 2nd 4-year term. So I'll be phasing out probably next year, but I love that experience. I'm still active on that board and I love it. So that kind of gives you an idea with, the children, and maybe the listeners are wondering, how did she do that and raise children? And wait, I thought, it was rough. I'm not going to lie. Neurosurgery is very unforgiving, especially neurotrauma. You're in the operating room, you're rounding at 6:30, you're in the operating room at 7:30 under a microscope for hours and hours and hours, phone, nothing. You drink bacon grease because you can stand up. I mean, weird things like we do just because you have to sustain this demanding day. But I did it, and my kids, I've talked to them at length now that they're adults about that experience with them. And I'm so thankful that they take from that positive example. They say, Mom, that helped us. I saw your pain. I they were my patients for pediatrics. Everybody was my patient. I mean, their football games, I would take my anatomy book and I would learn about, male genitalia that week. And unfortunately, I have people behind me having to look at male genitalia to, fifth graders volleyball, things like that. But they saw this grit. They saw this day in and day out grit. And they saw me say, I'm not quitting. I will quit if something happens to you, but I'm not quitting because it's hard. And I remember there's my sister, my oldest daughter, who's now in her early 30s and has 4 children. I'll never forget. It was the middle of winter, and I did not get home from the bus until about 10 at night. There was a big snowstorm. We left at 5. It was just horrible. Wow. And I got home, and I had to get up in a couple hours, and of course do it over again. And I got home, and she was waiting for me. And I'm going to get teary-eyed thinking about this. Yeah. She was probably, I don't know how old she was, but I remember she just put her arms out, and I fell in her arms really. And I started tearing up, and I just said, I can't go on. I think this is just too much. Yeah. I think it was my first winter taking the bus. And she looked at me, and here it was 10 o'clock past her bedtime. She got, permission to stay up and wait for me. And she just held me, and she just said, Mom, yeah, you can. And yeah, you will. And I was like, you're right.
Okay.
I will.
Yeah.
And so I had this song that I'd listen to every time I would pull out to drive to the bus stop, and it was this song of power, I don't know who it was from. I don't even know. Probably Creed, because I love Creed. But anyway, and so I had this fighting song every morning, and so I'd sing that song every morning. So these things just got me through a lot of stress at work, a lot of work is stressful. So things like that, were challenging. But I'm thankful when I talk to my adult kids. As you know, when my son is a Top Gun pilot, he does hard things. My daughters do hard things. My other son is always uncomfortable. He just got this job that he's like, it's really hard, Mom. I'm super nervous. I said, okay, that means it's a good job. If you're not nervous going into your job, then it's not a job that's worth your time. Let's just face it. If you don't want to be nervous, you go to McDonald's. You won't be nervous, And I feel that way, especially as a parent. Look, that's not a negative. Think of it as a positive, because that's firing you up. And when you're nervous, that's your sympathetic drive going, let's perform on top of our game. Yeah. So there were positive rewards from those many years watching their mother at work.
Yeah. I mean, them seeing you as a good example is I mean, they spoke about it, but it's almost like the invisible bonus, because not all kids talk to their parents about the hard things, but they're still witnessing it. And you happen to have that beautiful moment when she is witnessing it, and that it's hard, but then also going, yeah, but you can. And she probably is saying that because you're consistently saying, no, you can do hard things. There's beauty in the hardness. And as you're talking, I mean, there was a lot going on, and you were still driven. So I think what's nice is that there's times when you feel like you cannot do it, but you still and I believe you when you said at that moment, I don't think I can do this anymore. And I think her words helped you. I also suspect that if she weren't there, your brain would have shifted, because you are who you are at your core. And I think that sometimes as people, our narrative can hinder or help us. And narrative is just
so much.
for just their words, right?
Yeah.
And so if I'm thinking like I can't do this to this moment, if I pause and go, well, wait, I have been,
Yeah.
and I can continue to. I clearly can, because it's what I have been doing.
Yeah.
And so I just am thinking, and it takes a lot of perseverance, which you have said, but I trust. Like, I'm trusting I'm where I need to be.
Yeah.
Even though this is harder than anything else, maybe.
Yeah.
Till that moment. And I'm hoping that as people are listening and they are doing hard things, like, that's one of the affirmations I recommend most of my clients say, if they have a list of affirmations, is I can do hard things. And if they don't think they can, then the affirmation, it turns into I'm learning, or I'm working to believe I can do hard things, because that will still help the brain shift,
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think even further than that, even further than I can do hard things, I would take us to the level of I must be doing hard things. I should be doing hard things.
Yeah.
Because we as Americans, we don't,
whatever. Yeah.
I say Americans, but I say just this culture of, we have everything delivered. We can't wait for things that we want. Let's go we travel internationally, or even in our own country, we have so many people that they work hard. Hard work is good.
Yeah.
And I've always taught my kids that, look, you're blessed to have a body that works. You're blessed to be able to carry and load and
the
walk.
fact that it's sore right now because you help someone do whatever physical task is like going, oh, that's super cool.
Yeah.
You actually have the opportunity to feel sore or what have you.
That's right.
I just want people to just kind of just take a moment, put it on pause if you need to, and just kind of sit with that with yourself. Like, I know I can do hard things. It's good for me to do hard things, right? It's like that strength, right? There's no strength without the struggle. And trust that you're where you're supposed to be. And if something feels off, like, because there is those times that we notice spiritually or otherwise, we get the energy of, wait, something's off. It's okay to shift. It's okay to pivot, because you did that a lot. It didn't mean like, oh, it's hard and I need to stay on this road because it's hard. It's good for me. It's like, well, wait, make sure you're on the right road, because you did have to pivot,
The only consistent thing was change every. Right. I mean, whether it was the snow, whether I got home in 3 hours or whether I got home in 7 hours, it was all out of my control. What was in my control is to show up and do the best that I could. But 99% of the things were really out of my control. And so I believe in humankind. Like, I believe that we are designed to work hard. And I think that when we say, oh, I can do hard things, I think that sometimes is a little bit too soft. I think that we as this is Kendra speaking. And I know that your clientele is you have to meet them where they're at. I totally get that.
It's more about the affirming. It's not about the word can. It's more about like the idea and like, I am powerful. More like that. And I'm supposed to use my power. That's really what it's supposed to be. But so, there's no hill to die on about the word can. So
I love that. Because I think that, yes, you nailed it, Misty, when you said it, a narrative is just simply a narrative. And I do support that, because I do believe that if we frame it in our mind, like, we are not entitled to not have heart. Like, it is not in our plan to have a soft life, to have an easy life. Like, we are called to do hard things. And if we don't do hard things, then we are losing out on this thing called life. Absolutely. Because that's where things get done.
Yeah. When you're saying that, I'm remembering that cartoon movie WALL-E with that little robot. And remember, they were all traveling to the new universe or the new planet or whatever. And everything was so gifted that they were drinking, they became unhealthy in their luxury. I will, and I don't think luxury is bad. I think we can have great things and have luxury, but I always think of that like there was no purpose. They lost their purpose. They lost their ability to discern.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
All
for
of
sure.
those things, like right from wrong, truth from fact. I mean, there was a robot running the show, for Pete's sake. You know what I mean? And it's not to say that was a great movie, and it's not to say that we're all robots, but I think there's something to the like, this is what life is. It's a series of events, and some are harder than others.
I love that quote, and I'm going to butcher it, and maybe you know it. If not, we have to look it up. But it's like, soft times bring. Do you know that one? Hard times. Hang on. Oh, I have to find it.
Okay.
It is so good. Hang on a second. I'm going to get it right now. Hang on. Can you see me still?
I can still see you, and if we can't, people can still hear your voice.
Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Hard times make strong men. Strong men make good times. Good times make weak men, and weak men make hard times. So I love that, because I think I lost you. Where did we go? There we go.
I'm still here. You just can't see me, probably.
Okay, hang on. I can hear you. Get you back. Oh, there you go. Okay. But yeah, I believe in that, and so I use that as a litmus test for myself. Am I getting too comfortable? Let's make sure that not that I'm seeking hard things. Gosh, I don't know if I don't need more, but I'm not shying away from it. That's the key.
Like, that's to be clear, because people are going to go, oh my gosh, I don't have that drive, or I don't have that passion. I'm like going, no. You have your own journey. And like you said, I'm not seeking it. I just accept it when it happens. And I also challenge myself to do things. But the whole challenge is you going, this is really interesting to me, and I'm willing to do the work or risk in order to learn more, or to do more, or to be more, because that's really what I want, and that's what you were compelled to. It wasn't like, oh, I just, like, you felt it. It was like a real core thing for you. And it's okay. And it's okay that you started in one direction and went the other. And listen, by the way, you're not at the end of your journey in your stories. Like, you've done more things,
Oh, it's just getting started. And I was going to say, I was going to say too that, and we did cover this when I had issues with my marriage, and when the marriage didn't fall apart, it was a very difficult time for me. I didn't realize that I'd have to financially provide for my children and myself. And I was able to do that with my income. And so I felt like, looking back, wow, maybe that's why I got accepted. I don't know, but I was able to be trained and prepared to take care financially of my family, which was, a huge blessing. But I think, to kind of tease it down a little bit, what you were just saying, and then we'll move on. I have just a couple other little things before we kind of wrap up the whole professional thing. But I think that the whole theme too, Misty, is when we argue with reality, we always lose. And what does that really mean? Well, we always talk about surrender. Like, I surrender to God. I surrender, my will, or whatever that is. And I think that for all of the listeners, myself included, is something that doesn't go our way. You name it. Everybody has that something that doesn't go their way, whether that's during a day, or whether that's a circumstance, or whether that's a health outcome, or whatever that is. Whatever that case is, we can't argue with reality, because when we do, which we all do, we will ultimately suffer. That's where suffering comes from. And I mean, the beautiful Buddhist principle, which really is very synergistic with Christianity, is when we have an expectation that is unmet, whether that's financial, marriage, kids, someone did something. I mean, it goes on and on and on. When we have an expectation or an outcome that is unmet, that's where we, as humans, we start to suffer. And so I think, even to bring it down on a very basic take-home message today, would be, whatever is going on in our lives that aren't going our way, there's just always something, you can find something. Look at that and go, you know what? Let's just maybe not be so attached or tethered to the outcome. Let's just accept it for what it is.
Absolutely.
and go, guess what? I'm not going to argue with reality. I'm going to just go, it
Yeah.
is what it is. There's no negative or positive emotion. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go, all right, take
Yeah.
it and move on.
Yeah.
And
And it's
that,
not to say that you're denying what's happening. It's like you're acknowledging it.
yeah,
This is different than I thought. I'm
mhm,
noticing these thoughts, these feelings, this reaction,
yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
have to continue. I have to still go.
yeah,
I have this
yeah,
client that I met, and this is just an example that might be relatable. And she's an amazing client, and she would not care if I shared this story. And she's got autonomy, but she's at a crossroads where she has to find a new career to take care of her family, which she was not expecting to do. It has to be the primary. She wasn't expecting to do that. And there's a part of her brain, and she's got a direction, and it's really hard. And she goes, I'm not sure what's going on, but whenever I go to study, I avoid it. I can't focus, and I don't know what that is. And then she tells me things that she wants, and I'm going, okay, so what I'm hearing you say is you are not living the life that you wanted or that you expected, or you were living this life and things changed, and because they changed, you still want this life.
yeah,
And because of that, your brain's like going, well, don't go this direction. It's avoiding that because it really is holding on that this is going to happen again.
yeah,
Um, and it might, but not right now. And so really for her, she had to decide for her, is this stupor of thought a spiritual thing where
mhm,
she's being taught like, hey, you're going the wrong direction? Or is it her brain going, arguing with reality? Like
yeah,
and
yeah,
she's like going, it might be both. And so that was her homework assignment this week, was
oh,
to
yeah,
figure out, like, is this a spiritual thing that's saying choose a different course? Because she's a very spiritual person. And I try to lean into that, of course, with my client.
yeah,
And I go, or is it I'm arguing with reality? Because I love that. I love that. I'm going to use that too. I'm going to steal from you all left and right. Is that when you argue with reality, you always lose. And
yeah,
if you don't think you are, then you're believing the lie,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
reality is a shift.
Yes, and the more we argue, the more we put our heels in, the more we tighten that tether,
Yeah.
then we, have the natural progression into victimhood, and then we have the other natural progression into deflecting what, the
Yeah.
reality is onto someone else and not taking responsibility for our unhappiness, and
Yeah.
it just
You're
kind
making
of
your journey harder.
you make it, and then the narrative changes, and then you buy into that
Oh,
dysfunctional
yeah.
narrative, and then
Yes.
you're just going down and down and down, when in reality is, when it happened, no, we don't like it, we wish it was different,
Yeah.
but
I have
accept it
feelings
and
about
go,
it, and that's
what can I
okay.
learn from it? That's
Yeah.
the first thing we talked about. Remember, the first podcast is,
Yeah.
there is a silver lining to everything. I
Yeah.
don't care what it is. And I've
Yeah.
had a lot of situations in my life, as we've talked about and we'll
Yes.
talk about,
Yeah.
even the hardest things I've gone through, and I'm still continuing, I will continue to carry my health issues for the rest of my life,
Yeah.
that there's
When
still
you've had
silver linings.
transitions, like you had loss. I don't want to go. I don't know if you want to
Yeah.
share that, but like in between the two
Oh,
things,
loss. So much
there's
loss. Yeah.
travel, and you've had loss, and you're like, and here you are still going. I'm I'm one to speak and help people and pay it forward and share. And
Always.
yeah, so it's not like it's ever stopped.
Never
You sound
stops.
like you have it pretty together, which PS you probably do. And at the same time, you have a real life, you have a reality, and
Yeah.
you're consciously choosing to acknowledge it and still continue, which I think
Thank you.
everybody can. And I'm hoping that people will go, no, the power is yours.
It is yours. It
You know,
is yours.
and I think you're
Yeah.
a good illustrator of like, no, you can, we're going to move forward, even if you try not to move forward, you still will. It just is not going to
You,
be as
yeah.
healthful or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
You could choose which road.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you have the choice, and people aren't just born this way. I didn't pop out this way, right? This was kind of you have like the death by a thousand cuts. You also have you also have resilience by 1,000 cuts, right? You just,
Yes.
these are micro decisions that I remember when I was a very little girl. We went over some of those things that were so hard for me, and I remember thinking, I'm not going to let this get me. I'm going to be a better mother, not in spite of this, but because of this
connection relationship with your mom. Yeah, that was a big to your life. And you're like going, and
I was terrified because I didn't have the script. Like, I have these daughters. Oh my gosh, I can't repeat this. How am I going to do it? Yeah. But again, it goes back to giving it to the Lord and saying, I don't have all the answers, and I'm not going to be perfect.
And not letting your
you are. And so
not letting the hard things define you. Their experiences are not who I am. And I liked the piece with your mom where you're like going, it would have been very easy to personalize some of the things that happened with mom. Like, and like, I must not be good enough, or I might be lovable, or what have you. And you're
I went through all that.
No, I mean, I had the thoughts, but I'm also separate. I know I'm separate from I am not my mom's actions. Not that your mom was bad, because I don't think you think she was bad. I think she was doing what she needed to do, or not needed to do, what she was able to do.
She was just desperate. She was desperate. Yeah. She was, had a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety,
she had her own history.
lot of heavy burdens. And I would be lying if I said I didn't personalize it. I did. I was young. I was a little girl. I was a young teenager, all years and decades of my life. And, I question, what am I not doing? And what am I not doing? What I need to earn, I need to
that would be natural.
Prove it to her. Right. Yeah. And so that's why I was like, student body president. And then I was working, and I was just like, I was just outperforming.
Yeah.
And it wasn't working. Yeah. It wasn't working. And that was,
okay, well, then I came into me faster.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway.
Right. Yeah. And I guess, and so I know we've got some, I know our time is limited, and we do have some more groundwork. So what we can just do is basically we can maybe we should wrap it up when one of the big life pivots happens in my life up until 2020. So I guess, we can even just kind of wrap this part up when I was finishing the early, 2018, 2019, 2020, I was doing a lot of speaking. I was working for this wonderful company, Innovative Skincare, which is a wonderful skincare company. But I was doing a lot of spokesperson work and filming and that type of thing, which was a lot of fun. It wasn't necessarily as a PA, but I loved it. It was just a lot of fun, doing a lot of education and that type of thing. So that was really where I was until we maybe pick this up again in 2020, because in 2020, it gets really good. And from 2020 till now, wow. And still, as I stand here today, there's so much that's going on in my life. And I'm happy and wanting to share to help.
What happened in 2020 wasn't just a pivot, and it was out of your control.
Totally.
Right. And because of 2020, you are adapting and adjusting on the daily, right? And I mean, this is a huge teaser. You're welcome to share. I don't want to share it if you want to wait till our next podcast, but I'm just like going, you talk about a pivot or life changing.
I'll define it really quick.
Yeah.
It was, let's just say this. I went to bed one night, as I do. I was in Amarillo, Texas. I was helping a cardiothoracic surgeon for 2 days. I was going to fly back, rinse and repeat. And I was asleep, and that's all I'm going to say. And I woke up, and my life completely different for the rest of my life. So I had no way to predict. I had no way to prepare. I had no way to process the 3 Ps, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was fierce. It still is, and it always will be. And I'm so thankful, because even the steps during that process, even in the moment of, I've got to make these life decisions in the next 3 to 5 minutes.
Yes.
How I'm going to manage this.
Yep.
I'll tell you what a blessing it was to go, I'm not emotional. I'm not hysterical. I will make this decision. I will make it grounded. even though everything is on the line, my health, my life, my existence, my relationship, everything was on the line. I stood back and I went,
on steroids.
I said, Lord, it's big.
Yeah.
Let's make this decision. Let's do the right thing for the right reasons. Let's move on. And so we'll have to, we'll kind of do a little teaser.
Yeah. We're like,
my life
it's a good teaser.
Different.
No, and yes, thank you. And I think it sounds like we're wrapping up, right? Yeah. But
what time is it? Almost, yeah. Is that about time?
Yeah. Unless you had other things you want to talk about, I think you did a great job in talking about, your education and how you pivoted and everything like that. But I think on the note of the cliffhanger for next time, I am going to encourage people to really listen. I mean, everything is good, but when we are reflecting on our own, like, can I do it? Do I want to do it? What do I do? I think so far you've done a great job on like, hey, all these things have happened in my world, and in each section, I feel like you had to ask that question. What am I doing? Do I want to do it? Can I do it? I think you had to ask yourself those questions, and they were all big. I don't think school is a small thing, especially when you have a big life and you have a big responsibility in your life. So I think that was big. I think this is a totally different thing, because this really, you could choose to go to school or not go to school, but you followed what you felt like you were supposed to do. You followed your whatever. Your divine intervention, whatever that is. This right here, I still think there's some divinity to it, if that makes sense. That being said, it was like, I don't know that I would consciously choose this. Now, I don't know that you have any regrets or anything, because you're like, well, it is what it is. I've accepted it. I wasn't going to deny reality. I was going to argue with reality.
That's right.
But I'm hoping people and I'm not saying it's worse or easier or better. It's different, but like this literally was not a conscious choice. The conscious choices came afterwards with step by step, day by day. And so I'm hoping that people will tune in.
Thank you. And one more thing I didn't mention, and we'll have to do another podcast after the next one, is at the same time, around the same time, I would say more so around I didn't cover this, but 2010, I had a massive transition in my religious life, and the difficult journey that I had, and the choices that I had to face with the transition out of my love, my heart, my life, my passion, which was being, a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we went to Brigham Young, and being, a very active LDS. I have, and still do, I have a lot of respect and fond experiences and memories. And that's something, if we wish to share, great. If we wish to not,
I think so. Transitions on anything can be uncomfortable and hard. And it can,
it's hard.
Transitions, even though we might be going through it, other people are transitioning around us as we transition, and that impacts relationships and all those things. And so I think that you literally are talking about life transitions.
Huge.
From why I was born, and my brother and my mom, and I get married, and school and parenting and, careers, like you literally are going through your life up till now. And listen, you just went through a few transitions over this last couple of months, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it's good that we talk about all the different types of transitions.
Yeah.
Because you're going to talk about religion, you're talking about relationships, you're talking about education and health. Like you literally are talking about, what kind of transition can you have in life? Oh, P.S. I've experienced all of that. And
also maybe we can touch on also betrayal. I've had significant, and I mean significant betrayal, and I don't want to go into detail or mention names or anything. But we're talking about like like a turtle on my shell. Like I can't even process what this looks like for my life. And so we don't even have to mention details. We could just
Right.
basically, because anybody can go, wow, I know betrayal. I remember I've had it, or I am having it. So I think that that's part of something we can kind of tie into as well, because that is a big part of my life, where I have had episodes and long seasons of hard betrayals, whether we talked about my mother, but also other things.
And that's multifaceted. That has,
really is.
For us to move forward, we have to do lots of things, inner work, because there's a piece of how do I forgiveness, trust. I mean, all of those things go into betrayal, and also acknowledgement. I mean,
and also self-compassion, grace, all of these things. All of these. So maybe we can just for the listeners who have been through it, you live long enough, you're going to be betrayed on some level. It doesn't have to be, a massive, something that, I may have gone through. Could be massive to you, which might be slight in something else, but it's a common denominator, I think, for
most people at some time have felt betrayed, or have been, I don't know if accused is the right word, but told that someone else felt betrayed by them. So neither way, we have been told that someone felt betrayed by us, or we will have experienced betrayal. I mean,
and I have betrayed people. That's the thing too. Like I have had experiences in my life as I look back, and I'm like, I could have done better. Like it's just hard, because even if it's something that you do and you don't want to do it, but you feel like you're compelled to do it, and it's wrong, but yet it's just
but it's hard right, but it's
paradigm. Exactly. It
feels difficult. Wrong, but I know it's the right thing.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. And so I think that those are also important aspects to touch on. So maybe we can put that in our notes. We'll see.
I have it written down, and listen, turn the AI, whatever. So some notes are being taken as we talk, so we'll have
I love it. Okay, great.
So okay, everybody who is listening, we hope that you've enjoyed this show and you're able to glean from it and process, and even put yourself in, like, what would I do? I think that's a really cathartic thing, is like, would I do it that way? Would I do it differently? And all those things. I'm hoping you're able to do that, and that you will join us for our next installment. Look out for if you subscribe, you'll get an email, or I always do a post on my Instagram with the handle of Life You Got This. So look for the next time we're going to have a podcast hit, which is going to be in a short time, I'm sure, from when you hear this one. And remember, as I always say, this is your life. You got this. Have a good rest of your time. And until next time.